Hi, and welcome to video 4. Today we're going to talk about pastimes. What do you remember that you did during your time in Marville? For example, myself, I seem to remember when I was 16, going on 17, at least every Friday I went to a teen dance, which was held in the auditorium. I remember there weren't too many people in high school, maybe 72 or so. I think just about everybody was there, although it was pretty difficult to get a dance, I'll tell you. All the girls sat on one side of the room and the guys in the other, and it seemed like there was about a kilometer space between. And you had to sort of navigate your way over and bravely ask somebody for a dance. And if they said no, you walked all the way back with everybody looking at you, and and then if you said yes, and on the floor you got. And I think there was a local teen dance band. No, I didn't know any of the guys, but I think they were also students. What else did we do there? I know that some of my friends and I got into a lot of monkey business, one of which was using some of those lookout towers that they used to have, they don't have them anymore, along the side of the road there where the machine guns and placements were. And we'd have a fellow up there, and when he saw that there was a car coming up the road, one of the French folks, we would splash blood that we had found down on the dump on our bodies and on the road, and stagger out in front of the car and stagger out across the road to the other side. And of course the drivers in the cars would be shocked and jump out of their car and go looking for whoever was injured. Other pranks that we used to play on French drivers was, once it backfired, was we used to buy these strikers. Do you remember the strikers? You could buy these big firecrackers about this size, and they let out a hell of a bang. They're called strikers because you just strike them in the back of a matchbox. We took a bunch of these, and we knew that cars used to like to sit along the highway there and make out people in the car be making out and kissing and whatever, French folks. And my friend and I, a fellow named Norman, crawled up under the car and lit a couple of these strikers. Oh, I tell you, it was funny to see the reaction from that. And we were laughing all the way back to the trailer court there, walking along the side of the road, sort of in the ditch along the side. Suddenly this car came by, actually the one we had just put the crackers under, and he stopped with a screech of brakes, and this guy jumped out, and he came down towards us, and he pulled out a gun. Well, I'll tell you, that scared the hell out of us. And then he laughed and jumped back in the car. So I guess he was one of these gendarmes from the police academy down the way or something. God knows. But we didn't do that anymore. What else did we do? Well, we had little meetings in the middle of the night. Norman and I and another fellow named Jeff actually built a clubhouse, unbeknownst to I think most people, at the back of the Crawleys trailer, somewhat off a bit, and it stayed up there for quite a while before we were told to pull it down. And the reason why we had to pull it down was because there used to be a bit of fog around there in the fall and winter time, and we used to wait for these times because when the fog rolled in, we'd open the door and smoke our brains out. Well, one day we got caught and we weren't supposed to be smoking and reading men's magazines and God knows what. Yeah, the fort got torn down. Sports. Well, I played on the basketball team, the soccer team, and the volleyball team. I think through those three sports every year for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I love sports, and it was the only thing I kind of really excelled at. So I really enjoyed it, and our team was usually first or second in ranking, which wasn't too difficult because there were only 2 or 3 teams anyway. But that brings me to the school itself. You know, my kids, I have 3 kids, they've gone to school in Japan here and now Canada University. And when I think about the high school, so-called high school building, which was really just a barracks, cleaned out and made into rooms, and what we didn't have there, it really makes me wonder what kind of budget the school had. I mean, as far as I know, there was no band, there was no music. The teachers were supposed to be the best out of Canada, when actually most of them were the worst. But there were a lot of good there were some good teachers there. Mr. Matheson comes to mind, Mr. Anderson, and the beautiful Miss Calgary of 1966, I think. She was our English teacher. Boy, I'll tell you, she got our attention. She's the first woman we saw with a miniskirt on. And, you know, in the military, young people had to have their hair cut short, and girls wore all their dresses down to their ankles, even in 1967. So to have somebody come in with a miniskirt on and sit on the desk in the front there and talk about Shakespeare. But I tell you, my understanding in Shakespeare really improved that year. Yeah, I did later on buy a Harley Davidson. Now, as you remember, some of you may remember that at the end of somewhere in '67, maybe in the spring, the French military had been using Harley Davidsons from, I guess, from the war. There were 1949 Harleys, most of them huge things, weighed a ton, kick-start after you hit it 50 times, noisy, you can hear them coming from a mile away, dangerous, God knows what else. And I bought one for $75, and the reason why I was able to get it for $75 was because Honda, the Japanese company Honda, came out with the Honda 750, and the entire French police academy throughout France bought all these Hondas and dumped those Harleys, so they were selling them or giving them away, basically. If anybody knows where any of those Harleys are, I'd actually like to buy another one. And I had one for $75, and I had it well hidden away from my mother. But yeah, finally she cottoned onto it, and she gave me an ultimatum: either you go or the bike goes. And unfortunately, I made a wrong decision and sold the bike. What can you say? But there were some fun times there, and I'm sure looking forward to having a laugh with you guys and discussing what you did in your days in school and what you thought about the RCAF schools in Marville in particular. Maybe the German ones in Lahr and other places were better. It seems like, from what I hear, that might have been. The last thing I want to mention is I've been asking for donations, and I'll probably give you a reason why. Well, it costs a bit of money, and filmmaking is never cheap. To buy the film, I don't have to buy a camera. I have a Panasonic 200. It's a bit out of date. It's reel-to-reel, not digital. Digital new one would cost about $8,000, which I don't have. But the reel-to-reel is fine, and to get over to France, well, you know, that's $1,500 from Victoria, and then I'm going to rent a van from Paris to Marville to get over there with my equipment and get around. I mean, have to go to these different sites, and I just can't keep asking different people and hoping you get there. There might be weather changes and things like that, so I have to get around on my own when I'm there to the villages and the ancient sites and in and around the basin of PMQs. So the van has to be rented, insurance has to be paid, gas and mileage and the rest of it. There's a bit of money on food, you know, but I'll keep it light. I always enjoyed jambon, you know, like French cheese and ham sandwiches with a bit of beer or wine. I'm not a big eater, so I'll probably enjoy doing that. And what else do we need? Yeah, a place to stay. Well, I might get I might be staying with some people there, or there is a campground nearby that I'm going to use. I'm going to be camping out a lot in France. After Marville, I'm going south about 60 k's, which is a small town I mentioned before called Domremy, which was the home of Joan of Arc. I'll be checking that out, and then I'm going further south to the Cannes Film Festival to check that out, and then Italy and Greece to check about filming for my feature film. But yeah, I'm not asking people to cough up for the whole trip, but I do need some for the Marville part. And then there's the, what else? Lodging, airfare, van, gas, insurance. The last one is the most expensive one, and that's editing. Editing costs quite a bit of money. My last feature film, actually editing cost the most. It was about $4,000 for a 45-minute film. Now the Marville one is not going to be 45 minutes. It may even be 2 hours long. So I can expect a bill of $4,000 or more for a good job, something that's worthwhile, something that maybe the RCF may pick up later on. So it's not just going to be a fellow with a camera shooting a bunch of shots. You know, it's going to be background music. It's going to have good editing. It's going to need coloration, things like this, and put into proper format. All this takes time and money. Editing for my last feature film, which is only 45 minutes long, took 6 months to do. So I imagine that if I have the funds, that this one will probably take at least the winter to finish off and prepare. So yeah, over maybe the total amount needed really is 6,000 or so Canadian dollars. Now you might notice that on the donation button, donation part here, that I've only asked for 2,000, and that's because that's the first phase, which is getting to Marville. Second phase is coming back across Canada, which I didn't mention before, all the stops and the hotels, or getting taxis or renting a car to meet people and interview people from Ottawa all the way over to Vancouver. And yeah, so the second phase will be that. The third phase will be the most expensive part, and that's the editing. So you'll be hearing a bit more from me, I'm afraid. All right. Thank you for listening today, and I'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.